Oh, Pete, I've been on mute the whole time. Okay, let me start over really quickly. It's been one of those days, everybody. Can you feel me on that? So let me start from the beginning. Here we go. This is your leadership team. Reach out to us if you want to touch base, if you want to get more involved with ISTE's EdTech Coaches PLN. That's all of our Twitter handles. We really believe in the fact that this is your PLN. So we like to make it happen for you. This is everywhere that you can connect with us as a PLN. That first link is our ISTE backend PLN homepage where we have discussion boards, we have resources. This is where tonight's webinar recording will be posted. And so you can go there for all sorts of things, very active discussion board area. There's about 4,000 official members in the PLN. That's the only area that you see on your screen that you do have to be an official ISTE member to access that information. We're very big on Twitter. Please share what you're learning tonight with the hashtag #ETCoaches. And we also have monthly Twitter chats that take place on the last Tuesday of every month at both 1 and 8 p.m. Eastern. And for those of you who are just tuning in to your first EdTech Coaches webinar series this year, just a quick background. These presentations were born out of ISTE's conference that happens every year. So this is the second year that we've been doing this. And what we do is EdTech Coaches host a playground every year, and it's essentially mini poster sessions that take place for 1 hour at a time. And so what we do is ask the most popular, well-received playground sessions to present that same session over in one of our webinar series throughout the year. So it's a way for us to reach people who aren't able to make it to the conference. And then even for those folks who are lucky enough to attend the conference, it's a way for us to also, if you've been, that you can't make it to everything. So this is a way for us to sort of reach the folks who may have even been at the conference, but just had so much going on they couldn't make it to the playground. So that is how these webinars work. And just so you know, it's a short presentation. So the content portion is about 30 minutes long. And then the back half is saved for question and answer. So we've already got a pretty active group in the chat tonight, which is awesome. Those always make the webinars better for everyone, the presenter and everyone else involved. So as Alissa is presenting tonight, please don't hesitate. Throw all of your questions out in the chat area that's on the YouTube live page. I'll be collecting those throughout her presentation. And then when she's finished, we'll save those for the end. And as always, feel free to share your own ideas too. You guys always bring awesome ideas to the table. So without further ado, after my second time rolling around introducing it here with my little mute faux pas, I would like to turn it over to Alissa, who's going to present to us about coaching in a large district. And just a little bit about Alissa DeVito. She is the Associate Director of Educational Technology for the Archdiocese of Philadelphia Schools. She was the original and only coach to 140 schools beginning in 2015. Since then, Alissa has helped to expand the coaching team, EdTech support offerings, and district technology plans. As a former 7th and 8th grade teacher in the Archdiocese, Alissa brings a classroom perspective to her coaching and leadership. Alissa has presented at several past ISTE conferences, including ISTE 2015, 2016, and 2017, all with focuses on classroom technology integration and coaching. And just on a personal note, Alissa did present last year in our first round of these EdTech Coaches Playground series. And I think she was our last presenter last year as well. And she was pregnant last year, and she got word that she may go into labor early. So she actually recorded her entire webinar for me as a screencast and sent it to me just in case. And thank goodness she did, because I ended up needing to play it. Her son came early. And so I was still able, the show went on. I played her screencast for everybody live. So I can personally speak to the fact that Alissa is on it. She's on the ball. She's a team player. and she is extremely prepared. So, Alissa, I am personally excited that you get to be with us live this year. So, without further ado, please take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. I am very excited to be with everybody live this year instead of being in labor as I was for this last year, and very honored to close out the year. I love the Tech Coaches PLN network, and it's my favorite part. The playground is my favorite part of ISTE every year. So this is always an honor to do so. So thanks for having me, and thanks for everybody for being here. Katie mentioned that it's a happening chat today, and I'm excited to hear your questions and answer your questions as best I can, and then take a look at that chat later. So feel free to pop those things in there as well. So last year at the playground, the theme was the many hats of coaching, which is so true, that we all kind of wear a whole host of hats and are asked to do a lot of different things on a daily basis. And the district I coach in is rather large, so it wears a lot of hats. So let me give you a little bit of background. I was the first tech coach for our district. Now I have 2 fellow cohorts, and I'll tweet about them later so you can follow them as well, Mr. Aaron Heinz and Mrs. Annabelle Dotsman. So we are a team of 3 supporting 126 elementary and secondary schools. Our schools run pre-K 8 and then 9 to 12. So 17 9 to 12 schools. The rest are pre-K 8 elementary, covering 5 counties of southeastern Pennsylvania. So I live in Philadelphia proper. So I'm in the city. For example, today I was out in Chester County. So we cover a pretty wide span, about 50,000 students and about 3,000 teachers. So there's 3 of us and a whole lot of them to support. And it doesn't matter if there was just me or if it's all 3 of us. That's always a challenge for us to overcome and manage. So coaching for us looks a little bit different than sometimes folks who have smaller numbers of school. Though no matter how few teachers you're helping to support or how many you're helping to support, you wear a lot of hats and you are so needed and you are so appreciated. So if somebody didn't say that to you today, you are appreciated, whether they say it out loud or not. So for us, in our case, in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, we wear a lot of different hats. We conduct our big focuses. These are our big focuses: large-scale PD, whether that's whole school. The district as a whole, those 5 counties are broken out into smaller sub-districts. Sometimes we'll present to just a sub-district. District-level conferences, PLC meetings, school technology planning, district technology planning. Sometimes the school will ask us to come in and have a voice at their table when they're crafting their new tech plan. Or we put out a district level one, and then what a lot of schools do is they add on to that at the local level. Small group and personal coaching, as much as we can get to people one-on-one. We really, all 3 of us really strive to make ourselves available in a variety of different ways. We also maintain several different social media channels, an AOP Tech Twitter. I don't have all that, so feel free to follow us. I'll share it at the end here. Social media, we have a YouTube page, so we upload our own content to our YouTube page. We have newsletters and websites. We also host and organize EdCamp AOP, which we were really excited this year that we had over 100 teachers attend. It was a big jump from our first year and a great learning curve from year 1, and very successful this year. We just wrapped that up in February. And we're really excited about looking at next year. And then we also support our central office, which is the Office of Catholic Education. We really try to support their initiatives and provide some leadership PD, looking at tools, how they can be more effective on the leadership side of things, and sometimes even a little bit of low-level tech support. Any one of us will get pulled as somebody's computer decides to not work that day. And I think that's another thing of tech coaches. No matter how many hats we wear and how many different things we do, we always get pulled for my computer's not working, my smartboard won't connect, things like questions like that too. So a lot of times in smaller districts, there's some big benefits to small scale. If you are somebody maybe with 1 building or 3 buildings, I can dream, right? I have 43 buildings. I can dream about that. You have the ability to do some more personalization. Badging is something that I've seen, especially in talking out at ISTE with coaches in smaller districts. They can really personalize that badging in a way that is so cool. And incentives, it would be really difficult for me to get 43 buildings to decide on an incentive. So sometimes I can get incentive buy-in, and sometimes it's something I can't always do. I am jealous if you have the ability to just pop into classrooms. That's something that is always a struggle for me, just being in so many different places, for having that relationship and rapport with folks. Consistency in events or series, generally flexible, and a method I really like for when it comes to observations. And our coaches in our schools, we don't evaluate any teachers, but we might do observations at the request of the teacher or an administrator. And I really love the BDA before, during, after method, especially for coaches, where you meet with a teacher before, you help to craft that lesson with them, then you're there during it, whether you're an active participant or passively watching to make some notes, and then having conferences after. That BDA method is really great to be able to utilize. In our large district, sometimes tricky to schedule things. So we do have to do a lot of pre-planning, something that I think each of the coaches on my team figured out very quickly, and I hope I'm not speaking out of place for them, is that we really have to build in travel time. And it was a mistake. I think all of us have had a moment where we did not build in the appropriate time. It can take, depending upon traffic, over 2 hours from one end to the other. So you really have to be thoughtful about how you plan things. Administration plays a huge role for the buy-in, because I'm not there to hype them up every single day. Somebody's got to be their cheerleader. And I cheerlead when I'm there, and I cheerlead from the sidelines as best as I can. But the reality is I'm not in that building every single day. So they need somebody to be their champion, to be their cheerleader, to encourage them. We've really found that teachers do have to have a level of self-motivation to either seek out help or move forward with it. So something that we're kind of just starting to cross the hurdle on is we kind of started with the schools or the buildings or even sometimes the individual teachers who wanted help first, and then move from there. And we're just kind of crossing that point now. And we do a lot of broader, larger PDs, and then follow up with the personalized support. And some of the coaches that I've gotten to network with out at ISTE, at Coaches Playground and Network, a lot of them do the flip of that. They start with personalized support, and then they go to admin and they say, this is the commonalities I'm seeing. Maybe we should hold a bigger PD on this topic, maybe Google Classroom or something like that. Mine is kind of the reverse, where I'm starting with that PD, and then the follow-up piece afterwards is a little more personal. So I just wanted to share, and what I shared out at the playground last year, are just some of the things that are working for us. And the great part about it, of getting to revisit this quite a few months later, almost a calendar year later, is that I have a little piece of that reflection to be like, that did not work as well as we thought, or that worked better than we thought. So this is kind of the 2.0 on all of this. So one of the things I shared last June is that we had great success with monthly newsletters to reach many teachers at once. And I thought we were like rock stars. We were killing it. They were not digital, they were PDF format, because we were meeting kind of admin where they requested to be. And though that wasn't our preferred method, we thought we were getting good traction with it. This year we switched to SMORE, which I love. I can't say enough good things about that. And the analytics are wonderful, but what it told us was we weren't entirely as effective as we thought. September, super well read, links clicked all over the place. we're now in March, and we're finding that there's less and less and less at this time of the year as standardized testing and spring breaks and all that kind of stuff pop up. It kind of falls to the wayside a little bit for some folks. So we thought that that was just really killing it, and it is doing good things, and it's got great content for those who are accessing it. We just realized that maybe we need to do a little bit more reflection about how we deliver those, what goes into them and whatnot. So I wouldn't say it's a failure by any means, but just maybe not quite to the level of success as I thought. We utilize webinars. We hold 6 a year for elementary and 6 for high schools teachers. And that's great because we can hit a lot of people, or a lot of people spread out at an easy time. And we do them in the evening, kind of like this. So people can come hang out in their jammies and watch. And then we post the archives on our YouTube page, which does get some good play there. We are revamping that for next year. Just because we're kind of revamping the topic a little bit there. So, and I think that's too something that we're starting to find. Some of these processes we've been in place for almost 3 school years now. It's time to refresh and revitalize them and give them a new and different spin to help keep that engagement high, to make it fresh and new and exciting and something that people want to join. So that would, kind of lend to that too. All of us as coaches tend to use Google Hangouts for personalized support when we can't make it on site. Sometimes it's really hard to get from one place to another, and we have the benefit of just being like, hey, can you jump on a Google Hangout? I'll share my screen. I'll talk you through it. And so we've really utilized that. And I think we've gotten to a point where teachers aren't scared to jump on a Google Hangout. It was an intimidation thing for some folks at first, and now it's become second nature to some teachers. Another thing that really lends it to success, because we're not in the building every single day, or even on a once a week basis. Like I know some folks here might have 5 or 6 schools that you rotate through. Surveying teacher needs before that PD is really helpful and good for that administrator too. But we also learned, or at least I feel, having a point of contact who's not an administrator is also really great, because sometimes what I found personally, and maybe you can relate to this in your buildings, the administrator would have one perception of teacher needs. But if you talk to a teacher who's sitting in that lunchroom every day, it's a very different need. Or sometimes an administrator felt that their teachers were super advanced when it came to tech, and then it wasn't the reality of when I showed up. Or even the opposite, where they said, my teachers need so much help. They're really struggling. Like they don't do any of these things. And then I get there and it's a very different picture. So typically I do a lot of the organization and topic setting and whatnot with an administrator. And then I ask them to loop me in with a teacher or teachers that I have good relationships with in that building. I'll say, hey, what do you think that the teachers need? And sometimes if it's a PD, will get set up really close to the date and I might not have a survey, enough time to survey. That's a really helpful piece. The more we can hype and push out our events during social media, and I say street cred on there, but we've got some teachers who love their social media, and we have some who would rather not. But our biggest success, and I put it in nice bold, is Remind. We've really been utilizing Remind, and we try not to push out too much all the time, but well-timed reminders to say, hey, look at all the new content that's on our website. Did you know that registration for 5 events is open right now? Different things like that. Or even just sending out a good article every once in a while we'll take advantage of. So Remind has been really a fantastic tool for us for that. Being multi-building, we can opt in. We have some requirements in terms of our communications across buildings, but Remind is a way that we can get teachers to opt into that, and they get those reminders on their phone, and we can see immediate bumps in registrations on events, our district-wide events, webinars, and things like that. So we really love that. incentives and participation from administrators. If administrators can be active participants in that PD session that you're asked to do, it's great. I've had administrators kind of come in and walk out. I've had some folks sit in the back of the room but work on other things. When they're engaged, like their teachers are engaged, it sets a tone for everybody in a really positive way. And I really love that. I've seen raffles and food and other perks, but I always plug this because this is the best incentive I've seen. 3 years in, still the best one. The administrator took away weekly lesson plans for her teachers after the PD, and they only had to submit one plan with a tool that I had used, and they had a variety of tools to choose from. So they had to write a lesson plan with that, and then a reflection afterwards, and that was all they had to submit that week. And every single teacher in that building taught a tech-infused lesson, and every single teacher in that building tried something new. And it was a great way to just boost that morale and give them the freedom. And she was very open, this administrator was very open in saying, if it fails, it's okay. Tell me it failed, like tell me why it failed. So it gave them that opportunity to try something new, for it to go really well, for it to go really bad, whatever the outcome was. The important thing was that they crafted a good lesson that infused tech in a really meaningful way, and that they followed through in using it. And she made it their lives a little bit easier to make that happen. So I always play that one because 3 years in, still the best one, still the best buy-in I've ever had. We have even greater success when we have repeat visits. That's something that's really grown this year between the coaches. I think we've all seen an increase in schools that want to do series of PDs. It definitely helps. It's building that rapport and those skills over time. And I think those are things that really make teachers feel confident and comfortable and willing to have kind of that growth mindset to take a leap and try a new thing. We have a YouTube channel, and when teachers utilized some of the online resources and reached out for help kind of together, I'll get an email every once in a while that says, I watched your YouTube video on how to archive my class in Google Classroom. I think I did it right. Should this be what I see? And I'm like, great, you took some initiative. And I always really try to celebrate when somebody takes that moment to seek out answers for themselves. It's kind of what we hope our kids do in the classroom. We want to teach them to be resourceful and find information, and then, kind of have that reflection to say, all right, let me take a look at it. Can we look at it together? It's kind of the model we really want our kids to do. So when it follows through to adults, I'm always like thrilled. When we were able to track and follow up or post-survey PD, and the big one where we had the biggest success is when we were able to get a clear picture of what teachers needed and where they were. So we met them where they were and pushed them forward instead of where admin or somebody else thought they were. It really makes a big difference. It makes the teachers feel like you as a coach are on their side. And I think that's a big thing for coaches. We kind of have to be an ally to everybody. We have to be allies and sympathetic and help a teacher feel comfortable and confident, but we also have to be a leader and help admin, make decisions or, steer a teacher in the right direction. So I think sometimes I feel like I get both sides who do a little bit of nipping and complaining at me, and you kind of just have to have that open mind to say and not take it personal, one, and then to kind of be like, okay, so how do we solve this problem together? And I think every time I've approached a teacher who's kind of come to me upset and downtrodden about something, and I've said, okay, but let's figure out what we can do. We can definitely do something. I'll help you. And like that changes an entire attitude towards a situation. So it's always a good thing to keep in mind. We do have a new initiative that hopefully by this time next year, I can be able to share more about it in a reflective manner. But we're super excited that we're getting to build a STEM lending library. And that's another way we're looking to meet a lot of teachers' needs in a very small, with a small number of coaches. So essentially, much like a library, teachers will be able to take out different pieces of STEM equipment, robotics, drones. I put a drone there because we're definitely going to get a drone. Different pieces of coding equipment and software, Raspberry Pis, all that kind of fun stuff. and they'll be able to check them out for a 2-week period. Because what we're finding is some schools are really intimidated to commit to making those purchases, or they don't understand how their teacher is going to use them, or teachers in their building are going to use them. So they don't want to invest in something that's not going to get used, which is totally understandable. So that way they can kind of figure out what it is they need and want as a school community. The piece of it that's really great for us as coaches, that in order to take things out of the library, the teacher who's signing things out has to meet with a coach. So it's another way for us to get some buy-in. Okay, you want to take out these spheros. We're so excited that you're going to use spheros in the classroom. Meet with us. We'll talk about how you're going to integrate them. And I think that I'm hoping it's going to be a really great experience. I am very psyched about it. And hopefully, maybe at some point can share more about that with the ISTE community. Some of our local intermediate units have a lending library, and they tend to be very successful. We're hoping that ours for the district is just as successful. Some things that have helped me personally, one is building in that travel time, so I am not late or on the other side of the district. So don't be afraid to block out scheduling. So for me, I love You Can Book Me, but it didn't work for me because I wasn't great about building in that travel time. And sometimes administrators weren't cognizant that the person before them was 50 miles from their school. So it made it really tricky. So I prefer, personally, I have better success myself with Doodle over You Can Book Me. And it was kind of a thing I had gone back and forth on. We also use Google Forms for just about everything in our district, all our registrations, and Google Keep. And I'm slow to admission right now. I'm slow to the Google Keep. I'm a very tangible list writer. But I do love a lot of different features about Google Keep, particularly the collaborative piece, where Google Keep has really helped me in being that I have so many different PDs, and I don't have necessarily a canned set. Like, I really do try to personalize them for each building that I'm in, since I don't get to personalize the day-to-day interactions with them in their classroom. So what I'll do is I'll put my PDs in Google Keep, and I'll pin them to the top, and I'll kind of put check boxes for the things I need to accomplish for them. And once I've finished planning it, I unpin it so it falls to the bottom. And that's something that's worked for me this year that I probably would continue. And truly, do not forget to make time for your own PD. And wearing so many hats and having so many roles and so many jobs and people flagging you down left and right for a million different things, it can be really hard to take a day for your own PD, whether that's an ed camp on a weekend or going to a conference like ISTE, or even just setting aside 2 hours where you close out your email and be like, I have these 4 resources that I really want to take some time to explore right now. I think it's really important for us. It's kind of like the tech coach's self-care kind of in there. So do make some time for your own PD, and don't. What I've learned is not to be afraid to schedule some time for that. So I have the opportunity to do some great professional development for myself, and that professional development is really just going to roll over and be a benefit for the teachers that I'm working with. So it's a win-win all the way around. So some tips I have for any coach, and this came about for me because when I first became a tech coach, it was the week of ISTE. So I went to an EdTech Coaches Network event, and I said, hi, I'm Alissa, and I'm responsible for 140 schools. And everybody just stopped and looked at me, and that was my crash course. So some things that I would kind of recommend to any coach, especially if they're new, or maybe you're not a coach right now, and you're looking to transition to that role. Things I would recommend, really setting some clear expectations about your scope of support and schedule. It's taken a little while for the administrators and leadership in our district to understand that when one of our tech coaches comes into the building, that we're not IT, that coaches, we say in our district, coaches equal curriculum. We're classroom teachers. We want to talk about it in the classroom I don't know what to do with servers. And I'm very open about that, which sometimes takes them a little bit by surprise. So setting clear expectations for that, whether that be with administrators or teachers. This second one really helped me revamp how I do PDs. I often start with, or I really strive to start with, why a tool is a great match for curriculum. Then talk about, here's my 5 ideas how I might integrate it, where it might fit in. And then I finish with the tutorials and then independent play. Sometimes when I first started coaching, I was starting with the tutorials and ending with the why and the how. And the entire PD, people would interrupt me and say, but I don't understand, but I don't understand. And when I flipped that and I started with, here's why you're going to love this. Here's why it's going to be a great fit for your students. Kind of hyped them up, and I got that buy-in. And then how do I integrate? Okay, so even if I'm giving them only 3 or 4 ideas, it then spurs their own creative juices, so that while they're working with the tutorials, they have both kind of the background of why and how to make the tutorial make sense. And it was just something that when I flipped it, it made a world of difference. All the way around. And being that ally to teachers and administrators alike, we kind of live in a weird middle ground in between them, or at least the way we're set up here in the Archdiocese, we kind of fall in between. You know, we're not there to evaluate teachers, but we can observe them if we're asked to. We can work with teachers in large level and small levels, whatever the need is there. We're kind of a jack of all trade. So it really just sometimes just being that lending, supporting ear to everyone equally, universally. And for me, it's always striving to find a solution. What's going to make a better lesson for you? What's going to make you feel more confident? What's going to engage students? What helps clarify that communication with parents, whatever that need is, and doing needed assessment, finding that advantage that a great tech tool can offer them, and being an ally all the way around. So with that, I'm going to wrap up and start taking some questions here. This is my contact information here. You can follow me on Twitter. I'll retweet with the folks, and aoptech.org is our website, and we're also at AOP Tech on YouTube. So feel free to follow us and engage with us. As a district there, we love pushing things out. Also in this slide presentation, which I'll pop a link into, and it's also in the top right corner, most of my slides there are some resources for new tech coaches. And the other one that I would like to point out, because it was something with the Tech Coaches Network, so I'm loving the Triple E framework from Liz Kolb, the Learning First, Technology Second. Really enjoyed that book, so I'll give it a little plug here as well in that framework. But with that, Katie, I'll pass it back to you for questions and what happened in that chat. I'm so curious.
Awesome. Thank you. Tons of great ideas, especially for those of you who are supporting more buildings than you think you can handle. So keep the questions coming, guys. If you have any questions, if you think of anything, please share it in the chat before we wrap up here. Actually, not too many questions came through during the presentation, but I don't know, is your YouTube channel included in that slideshow? Joseph asked if you could share your YouTube channel.
Oh, I will totally share our YouTube channel. It is AOP Tech. All of our things are branded AOP Tech. And if you go to our website, aoptech.org, there's a link directly to our YouTube page right on top there. But I'll make sure I build that into the resources as well for you there. We house tutorials there. We were getting a lot of the same questions over and over. So we were like, why not build a video library of all this? So we each try to add a video a month to it and build up our YouTube library.
Awesome. And then let's see, George asked, would you say that you spend more of your day offering PD, pushing into classrooms, or meeting with teachers independently, or something else entirely?
I would say, George, that's a great question, George. I would say that it depends upon the time of the year. So August and January, my whole schedule is PDs. And maybe even bleeding into September and early February. And then this is the point of the year where I'm doing a lot of administrator meetings about tech planning for next school year. I would say probably my top things consistently through the year are administrator meetings and support with big PD chunks in August, September, January, February. So it really kind of goes seasonally. It's a little bit of a roller coaster that way. Our school's just finished up some standardized testing and Easter break. So right now it's a little bit quieter. And then starting next week, I have a lot of like more independent, more in classroom support. We do something we call the minute clinics, where we're on site in a building for a day or half a day, and teachers can pop in and out on their prep period. That's been one of our favorite things to do. So this is like the perfect time of the year for them, especially in our area where we got hit with a lot of snow. So a lot of big PDs got canceled, and it's a way to give more individualized support. And that one I can sometimes get admin to buy into too, because they're just like, oh, you're just going to hang out in my school all day. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm here. And they get real excited about it. So for me, I think it goes mostly seasonally. And something we did do, sorry, this is a long answer. Sorry, George. Something we did do, we track our time as coaches. We have a Google form, and we track it not just so that way we can see, what schools we're hitting, but we also allows us to see where we're spending the majority of our time. So the last time I checked on that form, we were about 50% PD and personalized support, 50% administrator meetings and planning.
Awesome. Thank you. And then Susan, George said that is fantastic. Thank you. And Susan just asked, do you have tips for building relationships with staff?
It's a hard thing. And I think for sure, especially when you're not in the same building every day, where they're not seeing faces all the time. So sometimes what I'll do is I bribe them a little bit with food or candy. So if I'm starting a PD and it's a school I've never been to before, sometimes we'll play like a quizzes or a Kahoot as kind of almost an icebreaker. And then, the winner wins, even if it's a candy bar or something like that. Sometimes I'll do a $5 Wawa gift card if I'm stopping on the way. And that kind of makes everybody instantly like perk up, or bring some munchkins, things like that. It's a little bit of bribery in there, but a little bit of bribery with a sweet can go a long way, that's for sure. And I think just really being that listening ear, even if you're not there all the time, in PDs during that period, I do very hands-on, or I try to do very, very hands-on PD, as I'm sure we all do. So when they're working independently, I try to sit with 3 or 4 people at a time, and whether I have a little bit of a personal conversation or about that tool, so they can really feel like I value what they're bringing to the table. I think that always helps too. And I always try to recognize the fact that good teaching is good teaching. Good teaching is good teaching with and without tech. So that I'm never there. And sometimes if it's a new school, I will and who has been resistant in the past, I'll say, like, I'm not here to talk about anything that you're doing wrong, because you do amazing things. We're going to talk about ways that we can do even more amazing things that just might be a little bit different from the way you're looking at it now. So a little bit of bribery goes a long way. And then, recognizing and celebrating their successes, and trying to carve out a little bit of personal time, even in a bigger setting, for small groups would be what I'd say.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, let's see. A couple more things rolling in here. So Joseph saying, I struggle with the IT view from how staff see me as well. If you can do an IT task, would you do it, or are you setting a poor precedent that way?
I struggle with the same thing. So typically, what somebody will say to me, they'll flag me down. This is, and maybe this is exactly the kind of scenario you relate to with this question. They'll flag me down and they'll say, "I know you're here for the PD this afternoon, but my smartboard is not working, and just a big blanket not working, not working. Can you look at it?" And I get that a lot, depending upon the time, and usually it's not a time issue. What I've said to them is I can take a look at it from since I had a smart board in my classroom, but I can't guarantee it's something I can fix. But if I can't, I know somebody who can. So that's kind of my thing with them is like I might not be able to solve it, but I might be able to get you in touch with the IT person or the help desk. Because what we were finding when they put help desk tickets in or things like that, they would just say, my smart board's not working. When really what they needed to say was, the driver needs to be updated. So even if I couldn't fix the situation, I could help clarify their language to get them that solution a little bit faster. And so I hope that doesn't set a bad precedent. I often wonder about that same thing. But at the end of the day, I think it goes to that building a relationship to say, very transparently, this is not my area of expertise. Let's see if I can help you identify exactly what that problem is so we can communicate it better to somebody who can fix it.
Excellent. And currently there are no more questions. Guys, if you do have any last minute questions, go ahead and share them now. As you're thinking of those last questions, I do want to, I lost my Hangout window. I do want to share a link so that you can fill this out. It's just a short evaluation about the webinar registration process, the setup, and then at the end, there's the ability for you to put your name and your email address. If you fill that out, it will generate a contact hour certificate to send to you. So be sure to double check your spelling of your name and your email, because that's exactly how it will be put onto the certificate and exactly where it will be sent when you are finished. So if you want that contact hour certificate, by all means, please fill out that feedback form. And if there are no other questions that are going to come in, I would like to personally thank Alissa, first and foremost, for closing us out with an awesome last webinar of this school year. And I would like to thank everyone else for joining us during your Tuesday evening. We love sharing and learning with you. And for those of you who have attended multiple webinars, it's been great to see you coming to each of them. And we look forward to picking them back up in September. So thank you everyone so much, and make it a great rest of the week.
No.